Hi there, welcome to Killian's Kitchen. I want to show you how to do a jalapeno pasta. This is one of my favorite dishes. It's basically a jalapeno pesto sauce made of fresh jalapenos, garlic, and a few other key ingredients that we're going to get to. I got the inspiration for this dish down in Mexico, a town called Ensenada. A friend of mine, Toni, has a restaurant there called Toni's. It's one of my favorite Italian restaurants anywhere in the world. And on his menu, he has this dish called Jalapeño Serrano pesto dish. And this is kind of my version of that. So let's get started. But before we do, what are we drinking? This is called Fluxus, and it is a Grenache and Syrah mix. But more importantly, it's made by a very good friend of mine, Alberto Rubio, who makes this wine down in Mexico in the Valle de Guadalupe, which is close to Ensenada, the big wine grain region there. This is his signature wine. This is a 2013, and he has this wine at a few places across the United States as a house wine, including the French Laundry. So he's an incredibly talented winemaker, and this is one of my favorite wines ever in the world. Salud. That's a beautiful wine. Makes me want to cook, so let's get going. Okay, now let's do a little bit of prep. The ingredients are simple. Garlic, fresh jalapeno. You want to get the jalapenos from your Mexican store rather than your white people store, because you're going to get stronger jalapenos and you want them to be strong. You also want to have pine nuts. I roast these myself in the oven, just till they're brown on around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, that is. And sour cream, a staple in any Mexican kitchen. Now before we get going with the prep, get yourself a big pot, fill it up 3/4 with water, and get it boiling. Okay, so let's start with the garlic. I've used about 2 bunches of small bunches of garlic here. You want it fresh and you want it peeled, and what you want to do is cut wafer thin slices. So make sure your knife is fairly sharp, and you want to get slices as wafer thin as is possible. You do not want to mince your garlic, you do not want to grate your garlic. It is very important for this dish that you have these wafer paper thin sliced garlic in there. And for this, the bigger the cloves are, the easier this is. So when you're buying your garlic, try and buy the biggest cloves you possibly can. So now that we have our garlic, I think that's enough. I'm going to pop this into a pan, and what we're going to do is pop it down on your plate, and so you turn that on the lowest heat possible. And now take olive oil, take a fairly good olive oil, but not your best, and liberally drown all of that garlic in the olive oil. You really want a sufficient amount there, so that when you take your pan and do that, the garlic has a little bit of play going with the liquid of the olive oil. You may want to just take your spoon there or whatever and just pat the garlic down as much as you can to get all these wafer thin slices as separated and individual as possible. Then you want to close that up and make sure it's on the lowest heat possible. We're going to let this cook. If this garlic starts going brown or black, you're in trouble. This garlic needs to stay its color, and it needs to start caramelizing a little bit, but it should not be going brown, so just keep an eye on that. Okay, now getting to the fresh jalapenos, my favorite part. These guys are the hot ones, as I said, from the local grocery store. The problem with this, you've got to be careful. You do not want to be working with this and then go touching your face or any other part of your body, or indeed any other part of your wife's body or your husband's body. Trust me, I know from experience. Bad move. Now, with the jalapenos, you just lop off the end, then you cut it into 2 halves, exposing the insides, and you want to get rid of that. Not only is it white and pithy, but those pips in there, those seeds. Okay, and don't forget to keep checking your garlic. Give it a stir. You can see there it hasn't started bubbling yet, which is great. You want this to be going as slow as is possible. Give it a good stir. Pop the lid back on and give it a good shake to spread it out. And back to the jalapenos. Now what we're going to do is we have to dice the jalapenos. We've got them all emptied out. All the insides are gone. Now the easiest way I find is to just chop them like this, 2 at a time. I just put one on top of the other and just chop it fairly thinly and fine. And now leaving that as it is, go over to this side and in a perpendicular manner just cut it all like that. So for the most part it is now diced. Yeah, I don't know how many jalapenos I used. It's probably 8, 10, something like that. Okay, that looks about good to go. I think we are ready to add that to our mixture. Let's go and check up on it. You can see that's starting to bubble. I'm going to give it a stir. And that's exactly what you want, is that slow bubbling. And I'm going to turn that down again so that it just keeps up the slow bubbling. Next, of course. Next up are the pine nuts. As I said, these are pre-roasted in the oven. They're a nice brown color, which is exactly what you want. And we're going to mash them up a little bit in this mortar and pestle. For a dish like this, I'll probably have to do 2 batches of it. And as you probably know, pine nuts are not crunchy. They form more of the paste. And that we add to the dish at the appropriate time. Okay, now I'm going to get the sour cream ready. I use sour cream because I'm trying to get this dish as Mexican as possible. But you can use creme fraiche or anything else that's somewhat sour like that. Even if you want to use a non-sour cream, you can do that too. But this is the kicker for me. This makes it just gives it that sort of Mexican flavor without it being overt. Okay, that's looking good. Now in this entire dish, this is probably the thing that takes the longest, is getting the garlic to slightly start to caramelize, because you don't want to rush it, you don't want it to go brown. So that thing can be doing that for 20 minutes, maybe even half an hour. It's the part of this process that takes the longest. But be patient because it's really worth it. All right, let's check the garlic. Look at that simmering away. You can see now the smell that is coming off that partially caramelized garlic is insane, and that's exactly what you want. It's just, I can see now, it's just going to start turning brown if I leave it on any longer. We're going to start adding our ingredients, but first, the water's boiling for the pasta, and what we want to do is add a dollop of oil in there. Olive oil, you don't need the good stuff, and we need salt. Again, you don't need the good salt, and you need a lot more than you think you're going to need because not much of the salt sticks. So I've put a healthy dollop of salt in there. Now we're going to add the jalapenos. Lift the lid off and all the jalapenos go in like so. And we're going to give that a good stir. Let's turn down the water for the pasta and let's give this a good stir so that the jalapenos are going to soak up all that oil and mix themselves up with the garlic and let it sit there for a sec. Now the trick with this dish is it's a pesto, but with the jalapenos you want them to be crunchy, so we're not really going to cook them. So I'm leaving it on the very low heat, and we will add in a second the other ingredients. But now we're going to focus on the pasta. Now you can use any kind. This is just regular pasta, the round stuff. I don't know, do you call it spaghetti? I don't know. But I usually use the thin linguine, but you can use angel hair, you can use anything you want. Now the trick with the pasta is to get it in there when the water is not going crazy. And right now it's at a good reasonable boil. We're going to throw it in there. You cannot stop stirring this pasta. The oil is in there to help it not stick to each other. We're going to constantly keep moving it around in there. You don't want to give the pasta the opportunity to stick to anything else. Going to give the mixture a quick stir. And I'm going to give it a quick taste. It's super crunchy and nicely hot. And I'm going to turn it up a smidgen. And let's keep stirring the pasta. Okay, Now it's time to add the other ingredients in here. We're going to add the pine nuts that we've ground, and we're going to add the sour cream. And for something like this, I would say a good 3.5 spoons. Give it a good mix. And every time you add a new ingredient, the temperature goes down. Even though we're not really cooking this dish, we want to get it up to temperature. So I'm going to turn it up a tad again. Let's get that straight and covered. Now the pasta is going off here, so let's have a look where we are. It's beginning to come apart, which is good. It's still not soft yet. Now make sure you have your colander ready in the sink, because once that is ready, you have no time to be arranging anything. Give the mixture another whirl, and you can see there it's beginning to bubble, which is great. Let's turn it down again. It's very crunchy, it needs to cook a bit more, but the sour cream and the pine nuts have just leveled that flavor profile out. It's not as crazy spicy and hot, and now it has a bit more of a balance to it. And to help with that balance, we're going to add a little bit of salt. You don't need much salt in this dish at all, and you need your good salt here, good quality salt. Let's get that turned in there and cover. That's beginning to get really good. I think it needs another minute or two. All right, final check. It's bubbling up, and so I've turned the heat back down, and now you can see the liquid starting to separate a bit, which is really what you want, so that it's a little more saucy than it was. And let's give it a taste. Oh man, that is perfect. I'm going to turn the heat off. I think we're done. I'm going to turn the heat off, cover, leave it on there so it can still bubble a little bit. But that is ready for the pasta. Now some people say it's pointless adding the oil. Some people say it's pointless adding the sugar. Everyone's got their own way of cooking pasta. It doesn't really matter as long as it tastes good in the end. But for me, the magic is what happens once it goes out of the pot. All right, now let's give the pasta a check. And let's grab a strand. All right, let's give it a taste. And we are done. So what you want to do, take that right off and pour it in there. Okay, now this is the most important part. This pasta is drenched in water. So what you want to do now is take your your pasta device here and lift the pasta up and just keep on going through it. And what is happening, as you can see, the steam escaping is getting rid of that water off the pasta. Now at some point it's going to start sticking, and that is when this is going to be your lifesaver. Now I use the best quality olive oil that I can get my hands on for this part. This is a Spanish olive oil. It's about $30 a can like this, but it's really good and it's brilliant for pasta. So I'm keeping on lifting it up, getting all that water to evaporate, and the pasta is getting drier and drier, and that's what you want. And it's a timing thing, so you don't want to add the oil when there's still too much water on there, because water and oil don't play nice. So as you can see now, if you go close in there, there's very little shine, there's very little liquid on there, there's very little water in there right now. And now it's time to add the oil, and you want to be fairly liberal with the oil and work it in there, and it will again start separating and you won't have a problem of it sticking. But all of this without water, which is brilliant. And just work it through as thoroughly as possible. You want every little piece of this pasta to have some oil on it, so that nothing sticks to anything else. And there you go. Now I'm going to give it a quick taste. Wow. Now we're ready for our dish. Now to plate this dish, it's super easy. There's nothing to it, because it's such a subtle dish. You definitely don't want to be adding Parmesan or anything like that to this dish. So we're just going to go with a helping of the pasta, like so. And you just really want 2 spoons on there. This is a pesto. You don't want to drown it in there. And we are ready to rock and roll. It's a beautiful dish. It's so subtle. The thing I love about jalapenos is they are really quite strong and powerful, but they're also very subtle flavor. And so if you don't mess with that flavor, and everything I've added in here doesn't mess with that flavor, everything is there to just support the jalapeno. It's a very subtle dish, but you still have that punch in there, and you still have a little bit of a taste of Mexico in there. It's a beautiful dish. It's very simple to make. I'm going to post down below a little list of ingredients and a quick how-to, but it's a very simple dish to make. So I'll catch you on the next one. Enjoy. Booyakasha.